Welcome to our talk show. I call the Self-Empowerment Talk Show. My co-host, Christina Gowda. This week, my yoga class theme is balance. So it's about balance poses, but also being aware of symmetry in your body, posture, and using that awareness to bring off your mat as well. It's noticing maybe you might need a little tune-up, or maybe just noticing how you're breathing and how you're balancing work and play, that sort of thing. I know, Christina, you just said to me recently that you started a new yoga program.
I do the 30 days with yoga because our gym is removing the mask mandate, which is shocking, I know, because Michigan has the worst cases, I was telling Helen earlier, in the country. And I just don't feel comfortable going to yoga in a studio. And so I've been doing 30 days with yoga online, and life happens, work happens. So this round is called breath. And my question for Helen today, there's two. Number one, my yoga mat is about as old as my marriage, which is 12 years, and it's disintegrating and I'm slipping off of it, which I guess goes well with balance, because maybe if I had better balance, I wouldn't slip off my yoga mat. So what yoga mat do you suggest? What do you like?
Oh, wow. It depends on what type of yoga I'm doing, but I enjoy the Manduka super eco light.
Okay.
It's a travel mat and it's super thin. Actually, I could show it to you if you want to see it.
Absolutely.
Fold up into a bag. You can actually put it in a backpack or in a carry-on.
Okay. Miriam, what kind of yoga mat do you use?
I practice a lot of hot yoga, so I got the not slippery mat from Lululemon. I don't know exactly which one it's called.
Okay.
And I'm fairly tall, so I also get the longest one, which is not great now when we go to studios, because they have allocated spots for mats, and the long ones always don't really fit in the area. So
gotcha.
I do need a new mat, because I've been practicing yoga at home and my cats have been using it as a scratching post. So
Yeah.
I definitely need a new mat.
Helen, yours is really thin.
Yeah, it's super thin. It can actually be folded, but it's also very, very non-slip. So your hands won't slip. You're pretty much stuck there. It's made of natural rubber.
Okay.
So I don't recommend outdoors because it will melt.
Okay.
But indoors, yes, and great to travel with. It can be on any surface. It can be on carpet. It can be on any surface.
How thick is yours, Helen?
Oh, this is very thin. I would say it's something like maybe a couple millimeters.
Wow. Okay.
Very thin. Very thin.
Okay.
So
understood. Okay.
I like my blocks too to practice with. These are Manduka blocks as well. They're foam, but they're firm.
Okay.
See how this white stripe in the middle, it makes it so that it doesn't bend at all.
Okay.
Really firm. It's a firmer foam block than I've ever used.
Understood. Okay. All right. So the second question, Helen, is I know what you're going to say, but what do you do when your mind wanders? And I don't mean wanders as in you're doing yoga and all of a sudden you're like, is the stove on? I don't mean that kind of wanders. I mean, given the situation with the pandemic and the world as it is, and I think as we speak, we have another mass shooting I believe is it a FedEx in Indianapolis? Another one. And your mind is just not calm. And it's not the garden variety, like, is the stove on? What do I have to do today? How many meetings do I have to go to? How do I plan my commute? It's not that kind of distraction. It's genuine, like, anxiety. And my question is, and your mind wanders, like you can't get into yoga. Because I really struggled today. Like, I really struggled. Like, I couldn't hold any poses for longer than 3 breaths. And I was wondering, what's your strategy?
Good question. Thanks for that, because I have changed my own yoga practice because of that one thing, that anxiety, that all this bad news and everything. So how I do it is I let music help me through. So I create a playlist. My practice on the mat has been hip hop yoga lately.
Okay.
So I do have what I call a pandemic playlist.
You have to link it in the show notes because everyone's going to ask for it.
Yeah. So in the YouTube, I'll list all the songs and the artists.
Excellent.
So that you can search them yourself. But I have a combination of break beats, like from breakdance, to old school Rapper's Delight, to Gangster's Paradise, all that stuff. Super Freak, other So my pandemic playlist is quite vast, but it also has a theme with the pandemic. So the very first track is called Outbreak. Yeah. And so the lyrics are, allow the music to flavor your movements. So I've come up with a lot of different hip hop yoga moves. And actually, Miriam, you were joining me that week when I was playing the pandemic playlist for I think it might have been the second time or first time.
Last Friday.
It was last Friday. Yeah. So, it's an hour of hip hop music. And it started off with, like, there was even some other instrumental remixes of old songs as well that you might recognize and stuff. So I don't actually have it on my list to play for you right now, but I'll certainly list them on my YouTube description.
I think that's great. I think that's genius. Like, that's genius, Helen. I'm just curious. Miriam, have you done the hip hop yoga? You said last Friday?
I did it for the first time. I did Helen's hip hop yoga class. Yeah, last Friday.
And Helen, are you doing like sun salutations to hip hop?
Yep.
Helen, you need to put this on YouTube. This needs to be its own standalone video, Helen. This is genius.
The problem is, a lot of the songs are not royalty free.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I don't even record the classes either, because
you get into trouble for that.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I could get in trouble for that. So I just use them for live Zoom classes, and I was just teaching it. That's why I'm in this more tighter gear. I actually was able to teach the hip hop yoga at 5:30 without being on a mat, which was interesting. Because my laptop that has the playlist and everything needed to be like kicked or something.
Yeah, the extension cord wasn't long enough.
It just wouldn't start any. It was awful. So I was just like, okay, this computer's getting really old. It's been on for days and I didn't restart it. So sometimes it just gets unhappy and doesn't want to work.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it decided not to work at 5:20 today. So I was like, okay, well, I do have all of the songs to another playlist that I had called the Ultra Core playlist, and the K-pop playlist. So I was like, okay, I have some K-pop tunes that I thread together with some Lady Gaga and some Jamiroquai. all in the same playlist.
That's awesome.
I taught it, you know, without being on the mat. So that's another test, Miriam. Like when you're not able to be on your mat, but you're teaching online. And Miriam is in the yoga teacher training program at Taze. And that's something to be aware of, that, you know, you can still teach without demonstrating. It's possible. You don't have to be doing anything on the floor. You can watch your students when they're on the mat. So for the hip hop yoga, all my students leave their video camera on so that I can see how they're moving. And through my own creativity, as the playlists kind of roll through, I change what we do based on what I hear, because each playlist is a different hip hop yoga move. So I have one that's called Dirt Off Your Shoulder, which I learned from Neil Patel, who is the hip hop yoga founder from the UK. Dirt Off Your Shoulder by Jay-Z. And so we do a lot of this, Dirt Off Your Shoulder. So that's a great one to get all that garbage out of our mind.
Yes, yeah.
And that it's so much fun. Like I combine it with Warrior 1 and he's even Warrior 2 sometimes, or chair pose, or just standing in mountain and just shifting side to side and doing the Dirt Off Your Shoulder. And it's all instrumental. So it's not Jay-Z rapping, but it's actually an instrumental version of it. So it's really fun.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, can I find the Patel video on YouTube?
Yes, you can find Neil Patel.
That's got to be in the show notes too. You have blown my mind.
No. Actually, let me see if I can find one where he actually teaches Dirt Off Your Shoulder. So, can you see this?
Here, the track is called Dirt Off Your Shoulder. I can tell you a little bit about it. Now, Dirt Off Your Shoulder is a hip hop expression, and it means brushing away. It's going to be track 3 for a demo in a second. It means brushing away your stress. When you do like this, everyone do this. Brush some dirt off your shoulder. It means it ain't nothing to me. You know what? You ain't nothing to me. I'm going to brush you off like a piece of dirt off my shoulder. So that's what the jam is about. So while you do the dance, you're going to be imagining that you're brushing off some stress off your shoulder. Okay, just have a little watch. Get my demo people on the stage. Let me see, get my push and my Helen and my peoples. Come on, let's do it.
Too.
So you bounce, and then you switch to one side, and you brush, okay? So that's what you're going to be doing in the chorus. And when the chorus is on, I'm going, feeling like a bit, listen, wrong, brush your shoulders on. Dirt off your shoulder, you gotta get. Dirt off your shoulder, you gotta get. Dirt off your shoulder. Okay, guys, cool. Put a pause on it. So now we're going to do the real thing. When we do it, because we've got to hurry up a little bit now, yeah? I want you to get up and get that bit and brush the dirt off your shoulder. You going to work with me here?
If you want, you can stand.
It's coming
a little bit with Neil. I actually connected with him by...
Okay, remember, sing along. Bring yourself up to the standing position. Go up to the standing position. I'm going to rap with them when you're ready. You're going to join with these guys. Come on stage. If you're feeling like a pen, listen, go on, brush your shoulders off. Because it's glimpse through, go on, brush your shoulders off. The world is yoga crazy, don't forget and walk. Get one day, turn off your shoulder. You call it home to God. Only be loved by his force. Trying to wrap them out things. Simply think of the Lord. I'm feeling no remorse. Put my hand in yours. You don't think that you're the Lord, but that ain't made it with yours. You only know he's still loving you. From the mass and you scream. Swear the sounds of that. The way that I'm feeling. You know the hands we hang. So music, hip hop, with yoga. Seeing this song is so
Brush that dirt off your shoulder. Yeah.
Straight up your block. Came out in India and I meditate to set your mind free.
Feel good? Yes. That little thing that's noiseless.
All right, I need...
All right.
So Helen, does this Patel person actually like do nothing but hip hop yoga?
Actually, he does what he calls Chikri yoga, which is also known as hip hop yoga. So he actually created hip hop yoga.
Okay.
Many years ago. I remember connecting with him because I first found out about him through Yoga Magazine, which is published in the UK.
Okay.
And I was really touched by his story, and he's a cancer survivor. He got through it because of yoga and other ways to help with pain as well. So his mother was a yoga teacher, and he started teaching at age 16.
Wow.
When he started yoga. And I sent a message to him through YouTube. This is how it all started. And I said, I read your magazine article on yoga. Somehow after I wrote that, then he actually replied back to me. I wasn't expecting any reply back from him. I was like, this is what I, want to let you know how I felt. And he said, if you want to teach hip hop yoga, go right ahead. It's all about the creativity, and you come up with the moves, as well as you can look at some of my YouTube videos and get some ideas of some moves for your hip hop yoga classes. So it's about using the music and the beat of the music to have you move. And also music can be quite transformational. It can bring you to a different mindset right away when you hear a song. So just like the dirt off your shoulder, it also encourages you perhaps to clear your mind if you're going through some shit.
There's plenty of that to go around.
So as we clear the shit out of our lives, music can really help us with that. And yoga, of course, a lot of the moves, a lot of the flows, a lot of the vinyasa and sun salutations can help to help us kind of digest holdings of stress in our muscles.
Okay.
And then at the same time, help us with our mind. So
nice. Yeah, this episode went somewhere different, and I'm so glad it did. I'm so glad it did. Mind blown, Helen. Mind blown. Good job. Yeah. Miriam, do you have anything to add?
No, I really enjoyed Helen's class last week. You should practice with her. Once at least. It's a really good class.
Yeah. Helen, are you teaching hip hop yoga in the mornings when I'm at work? $10 says yes.
No, it's at night, actually. Just before we met here, it's at your time. It would actually be 4:30 your time.
Yeah. So I'll be sitting in traffic thinking, you know what? Helen's teaching hip hop yoga, and I'm sitting in a car behind 5 trucks and 3, Prius. And well, it's Michigan, no Prius. That's LA. In Michigan, it's all F-150s. So funny. Cool. Well, that was my question, Helen. Anything you wanted to go over before we close?
Yeah, so that's a question on the mat. No, I think I'll open the floor to if Miriam has any questions for me about yoga. I can try to answer it if I.
You're my 200-hour teacher training teacher, so you answer a lot of my questions, definitely. So on the topic of music that we were talking about, I was in a different training, and they were also talking about how music could be triggering. So it may like bring back memories or thoughts about somebody. So it's you need to kind of be careful on what kind of music you choose, and try not to have maybe words in the music or something like that. So it's also important to kind of think about what kind of music you're using in your practice.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I went to a class back before the pandemic, and they had Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder, and I think the song is called Breathe. And you could see like it had an effect on the class. I agree with you, Miriam. Yeah, it had an effect on the class, both positive and negative. Like some people were just like lost in their thoughts. And are you familiar with the Pearl Jam Eddie Vedder song? I think it's called Just Breathe. Do you guys remember that one? Mm-hmm. And it's a good song, I thought. Like it really makes you like ground yourself into your brain's not flying all over the place.
Yeah, and that's where the lyrics can be helpful. With that in mind, lyrics can be quite triggering, but at the same time could add to a level of catharsis.
Yeah.
I know sometimes we don't want to cry, especially during times of grief, and many of us are experiencing that now with the pandemic. Somebody knows somebody who has been affected by the pandemic, by coronavirus. Maybe even somebody who has died from COVID-19. And so as globally, we are going through grief together. And music can be healing in that way. A lot of the times artists create music due to a death of a loved one or somebody close to them. In hip hop yoga, the last track I use for Shavasana has lyrics, and it's I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it has this wonderful, like, angelic choir sound at the beginning. And then it has, Puff Daddy or P. Diddy doing his rap. And it has a lot to do with the Notorious B.I.G. when he died, right?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So, keeping that in mind, I also think of people who remind me, too, of the Notorious B.I.G. Yeah. Yeah, oh gosh. I do cry because I think of a young friend of mine who passed away just a couple years ago.
From COVID?
Not from COVID, or about a year ago. I mean, a year ago, a couple of years ago. I'm like, it was during the pandemic, just when the pandemic hit us. Like, don't even know where the time's flown, but it was on March the 18th, a year ago. Yeah. He died at 36 years old, 36, wow. 37.
That's young.
Oh, wow.
And he was a heavy set guy to like Notorious B.I.G. And actually one of his favorite artists was Biggie Small, Notorious B.I.G. And so every time, that song comes on, like, either I'm in my own practice and I think of him.
Yeah.
Or I even think of my father who passed away as well a few years ago. So yeah, it's just, there is, again, triggering, but at the same time, there's that room for healing as well, with songs. And hip hop yoga, a lot of the songs have some explicit language. So many of the songs that I have on my playlists don't have lyrics at all. Others do. And of course, I think it's important, as I'd mentioned in the yoga teacher training program with one of my other colleagues, that it's important to listen to the entire track to make sure that there isn't anything that's going to offend somebody, such as, offensive, curse words and stuff like that. So know that in hip hop yoga or any other style, there's some explicit language to keep in mind as well. Try to find the tracks that don't have that E for explicit or something on it, knowing that that's probably safer if it's been censored or something like that. Because there's also another song that I tend to use as well in my hip hop yoga classes is Kanye West's, one of Kanye West's songs, Runaway. And it's very hypnotic, the song, and in the video, Kanye is in like a whole room of ballet dancers, and they're all like they're all really like moving about, and then he stands on a piano and he's like, doing his thing. But so it's like very sarcastic, really like, okay, let's just be a little angry. It's okay. Because it's so-called negative energy that we say, okay, well, we don't want to be angry. But sometimes being angry in a safe space, such as like when you're in a yoga class, you're in a safe space, you're like, okay, well, I can kind of explore that a little bit, but I know that it's just sort of a journey that I can go into, and then I can come back to my mat and I can come back to my breath. Yoga and pranayama or breathing techniques can be really helpful with things like panic attacks, which can happen with anxiety. I've experienced it myself firsthand quite a few times. And I find that just, coming back to the breath and, not having judgment to what's happening is so important too. Knowing that, there are triggers. People may have panic attacks because of things. Being aware that when you do create your own playlist too, and I encourage that too, look at some old CDs that maybe brought some enjoyment to you or brought you to a happy place, or maybe a place where may not have been happy, but it may be a place that gives you kind of that empowerment, a feeling of empowerment. And then you can really heal from a lot of those songs that meant something to you in the past, that got you through stuff, right?
Okay. And it's so simple. At the end, I knew you were going to say you have to come back to the breath. It's so simple, but so hard.
Yes.
I say it, Helen, but it's so simple and so hard. And you're right. Like you can bring your stuff to the mat, and then I maybe even say it, and then I'll leave it here. Yeah. So, I'm good with that. Miriam, do you have anything to add?
I have one quick question from Helen. Do you practice the sequence that you're teaching before you teach it, or do you just do you always practice it from beginning to end before you teach it to see how it feels? Or do you just design a sequence and then teach?
Well, I actually allow the playlist to guide me through what poses I'm going to teach at the time. I do my own practice with that playlist, and it may not be, and I know it isn't exactly what I teach you guys. But for certain playlist songs, I know for sure that I'm going to teach that particular move. So whether it be Dirt Off Your Shoulder or Gangsta Pigeon, which is Gangster Paradise, or I know that I do Walk Your Dog, which is downward facing dog with pedaling the feet. That is quite consistent throughout the practice. And I have another one called Gun of Love, which is a core exercise, which is very much, it looks like Pilates a lot. And bicycling in the hood. I don't think I did that with you last Friday, but that's another core ones, like you're cycling in air and you're just kind of like imagining that you're like going through this journey and that you're like kind of cycling away from sirens and trouble. So so it's just like I create these stories, and it really depends on how people are moving in the class too. If I'm noticing people are, not doing downward facing dog, or they can't, like if somebody's coming in with an injury, I always cater the Gangsta Pigeon, for example, to be two different types. Like today, Gangsta Pigeon was not the way that I actually taught it to you last time. Gangsta Pigeon this week was actually because I was on the floor already on the back for the timing. I had people imagine that they were doing a weight lift on their back. So they were like really gangster about it, and they were using their biceps to like, get their chest, their their pecs and their arms strong. So they'd be on their back and they'd exhale, push, and then inhale and exhale, push. And their legs would be crossed into like an upside down 4. So you feel that the legs really connect. You feel the hip stretch, just like pigeon is. Pigeon that I did with you, the gangster pigeon I did with Miriam last Friday, was fists on the ground in pigeon pose. So you've got that hip stretch in pigeon where you get a nice glute stretch, but you do push-ups. You do 4 or 5 push-ups on your fists. So that's the gangster part. And then you put your hands underneath your forehead in fists, and you stay for this part of the song where you, in Gangsta's Paradise, there's a part where it sounds like a choir singing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so for that amount of time, I use that for the hold. So people breathe in that music and gives that space to the stretch. And then we go to the other side with Walk Your Dog, and then second side Gangsta Pigeon. So it's I don't practice any of it. So it's really freestyle based on what soundtrack's playing at the time. So the timing is I usually come to the floor once Gangsta Paradise is playing, and the music that really guides me as the teacher to where we're going to go next.
Gotcha.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I'm going to write down your name to put in the draw for the yoga audience giveaway. Miriam?
Nice.
Nice. Thank you.
We're going to be drawing on summer solstice, June the 20th, or even before June the 20th. Maybe Tina and I will do like a live draw. There is Wasabi House has 2 locations, one in Sackville, one in Quinpool in Halifax. So that's going to draw for a $20 gift certificate, as well as there are 3 gift certificates to East Coast Bakery.
Nice.
My friend Jerry. For East Coast Bakery, wonderful of our sponsors. And $20 gift certificates, 3 of them will be drawn. So we have a very high chance of winning because there are only 2 other names in this draw.
Oh, nice.
Last month. So far, our audiences have been small, but the chances are very good.
How often do you do the talk shows?
Miriam, we do it on the new moon, and Helen has to tell me when the new moon is, Miriam.
Yeah, so we always do this talk show close to the new moon time. So new moon was last week. I believe it was last Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we always do our self-empowerment talk show around that time.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for coming, Miriam. Yeah, it was really nice to talk to you.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Get us out here.
Thank you, Helen.
You're
That
welcome.
was awesome.
Close and wrap it up, and thank everyone for coming. It's a little city street.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye. Have a great weekend, Miriam.
You too. Thanks.
Everyone.
Okay. Bye.